What's up guys, welcome back to another video. I'm Gareth in Power Cameras and this is the brand new Panasonic Lumix GH5 II. We were lucky enough that Panasonic sent us one to test out for a few days ahead of launch. And this is an exciting camera, right? Because the GH5, especially for videographers, the GH5 was up there, you know, as like a benchmark, kind of standard for filming all kinds of different videos. Yes, YouTube stuff like this, but also, you know, commercial stuff, all kinds of professional stuff. Very much a tool that a lot of professional videographers used for all kinds of different work. So the GH5 II is a welcome upgrade to a lot of that, adding in a lot of features that we've been seeing in other Panasonic Lumix stuff that is great to see in this camera. Now, I feel as though this is kind of a good upgrade without being a complete revolutionary, you know, redesign of everything you've ever known. And I think that's good because I think anyone coming from the GH5 stepping up to this camera is going to be right at home, but with new stuff that's worth having. And I think that if you wanted something more than that, you could go S1H. If you want to keep it micro four thirds, I know Panasonic are announcing the GH6, which is coming out later in the year. That's very much a different price point, but it does offer different functionality as well. So at this kind of price, and you can check out the price and all that kind of stuff, full spec, everything in the link in the description, which is I think around $14.99. And that might change, you know, with the video. And if you're watching this and it's 2 years later, the price might be different. Don't worry about it. Follow the link, it'll always be updated. But I think at that kind of price, this is an extremely capable video system that will give you very professional results and allow you to do all kinds of things. Now look, there's no good way around it. There's gonna be a lot of spec, a lot of detail with this kind of camera because it is, you know, it's a fun camera to use for sure, but it definitely is a tool for professionals as much as it is, you know, a fun, interesting, entertaining camera to use. So we need to talk about that spec. We're gonna dive into that now. I've got loads of sample stuff that we're gonna throw up on the screen as well. So you can check out all that stuff, but we're gonna talk about, first of all, the image quality, the video stuff. Let's dive into it, let's go. So let's start by talking about the sensor. Now this is an enhanced 20.3 megapixel sensor, so similar to what we saw in the GH5, but like I say, this is enhanced, it's got an AR coating, and we're looking at about 25% wider dynamic range, which is gonna be fantastic for all kinds of different things, just ups the versatility of what you can film. That's paired with the latest high-speed Venus engine as well. Now, in terms of video, we're looking at being able to do 4K or cinema 4K up to 60p, 10-bit, no crop. We've got 4K 50p anamorphic, and of course we've got 4K or cinema 4K up to 30p, 422, 10-bit as well. So there's a lot there that we can do. 6K anamorphic, 420, 10-bit, variable frame rate, 4K, 2 to 50 frames a second. There's loads of stuff. I know that's a bit technical, but I think it's important to talk about when we talk about a tool like this camera. Now it's got pre-installed Vlog, so that's already on the camera. There's no kind of paid upgrade or anything like that, which is fantastic. I think that's a great thing to have available to you, and I think it's something I would expect with a camera like this. We've also got Cine-like D2 and V2, and it's able to record internally and externally simultaneously, which I think is an important thing to be able to do, you know, whether you're looking to do it as a backup or just have two copies of your footage in two different formats. Slow motion availability, of course, like I say, 4K 60p, and you've got full HD up to 180p as well. So really quite slow motion if you want it. Of course, autofocus is important to talk about as well. And absolutely, in the past, a lot of people would use manual focus just because it was easier. And, you know, a lot of people enjoy doing that for video, especially. But Panasonic Lumix have come a long way with their autofocus over the last couple of years. You know, we've seen upgrades and things like the S5. There was the firmware update, which I think really fixed a lot of stuff and made the autofocus much more usable. And we see that same autofocus system in this camera. I'm not gonna sit here and pretend it's the best autofocus ever. You'll never need to do manual focus. That's not true, right? That's not gonna happen, but it is definitely a lot better. It's a big step up, and you could rely on the autofocus now if you want to. That is actually how I shoot most of my videos, relying on autofocus. So that's great news for me, but it's nice to know you can do that without having to go straight to manual focus. Image stabilization is big as well, especially these days, because a lot of us like to shoot handheld. And if you're doing even a commercial shoot now, you know, a lot of the time, if you can do stuff handheld, if you can do run and gun kind of stuff, you're gonna get a lot more done. You're gonna speed up the workflow. It's a really useful thing to have as an option. Of course, you don't have to do it. You could pop a gimbal on there, tripod sliders, all that kind of stuff. But if you can get good, reliable results handheld, that is literally money in some situations. So that's a useful thing to know this camera can do. It's up to 6.5 stops of 5-axis image stabilization. That's with certain lenses. But that's really, really useful to have that kind of stabilization when you're filming. We've seen great stabilization in other Panasonic cameras. The S1 has amazing stabilization. I think it's incredible. The S5. So I'm glad to see it in here. It's another tool to kind of, use with this camera to just add to the versatility of how you could use this camera for filming. Now, design-wise, of course, we've got the free angle screen that flips out, flips all the way around. That's super handy if you want to film yourself, if you're doing talking headshots like this. Lots and lots of stuff that you can do. I always am a big fan of a flip-out screen like that. I just think it works incredibly well. I think it's just very, very useful, no matter how you're filming. Of course, you could use an external monitor as well, but it never hurts to have that flip-out screen available to you. The actual camera itself, it's very comfortable. If you're not gonna use it with a cage or you're not gonna use it in a big sort of setup, it's very, very comfortable with this grip. It feels good to hold. The buttons are incredibly ergonomic. I really like the feel of how this works with the switches and the dials and the buttons. I think they feel good. I think you can kind of navigate without having to look all the time. I think you can kind of feel where you're going. They're very tactile. And I like how comfortable this feels, how comfortable it feels to film. It's not super light, but it's definitely not heavy. I definitely wouldn't describe this as horrifically heavy. And also, for a lot of people, they're gonna pop a cage on there, they're gonna pop all kinds of stuff on there. So I think it's absolutely the right kind of feel and weight and all that kind of stuff. There's also some really nice kind of quality of life things here. So there's a red frame that appears around the screen when you're recording, and it's a blue frame if you're live streaming as well. There's a new battery, so 20% more capacity than on the GH5, and things like the menus are customizable. You've also got things like zebra, waveform, vector scope, all the kind of stuff that you would expect in a video focused camera like this. Now, live streaming is a big part of what makes this an interesting camera. It's something that Panasonic Lumix have definitely focused on with this camera, and I think it sets it apart from all kinds of other cameras as well within this kind of video space. It's very easy, very, very convenient to live stream using this camera. You can use it with the Lumix Sync app, so it'll connect to your smartphone, or you can connect it to a router to stream directly if you want to preload the settings onto an SD card and pop that in the camera. But it means you don't have to have a PC, you don't have to have a capture board, you get sound data, and it's up to 60 frames a second as well. And honestly, I've checked out the Lumix Sync app with Panasonic. It is so easy to set things up and just start streaming. So whether you're doing some kind of webinar, you're teaching something, you just need to stream something in general, there's lots of practicality to this. There's lots of ways you could use this. And in the current age we're in now, I think this is a really important thing that Panasonic have nailed here. They've made it so easy and so useful with this camera. I think this is a great upgrade from the GH5, but I do think it is worth being aware it is an upgrade rather than a complete revolutionary change of things. I think it's very good, and I think it's gonna be useful as a tool to a lot of people. There's a couple of things I would have loved to have seen in there: 4K 120, 10-bit, maybe a higher resolution option as well at 8K, although I'm never gonna use it, but it's a nice thing to think about. I could live without that, that's fine. But 4K 120 fits personally into my workflow really well. I would have liked that. 4K 60 is good, and I've been leaning a bit more towards that anyway, to be honest, rather than the full 100 or 120 frames a second. So I think it's fine. And that's gonna be in the GH6. So I think there's options for what you want. So really at this kind of price point, I think this is great. I think this is a really, really solid option. And then you've got the GH6 if you want to move up to some of those other options as well. So let me know your thoughts down in the comments. I'd love to hear what you think about all this. Any questions, pop them down there as well. Of course, full link down in the description for checking out the spec, the pricing, everything for this camera. That's all down there in the description. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. That helps me out a huge amount. I'll see you in the next video. And as always, thanks for watching.